seeing that okay, whatever you do, I'll just take care of the downside. So this single line can help a lot of parents or a lot of children develop a healthy self-esteem and a good bond with their parents. This tender teacher approach, deemed the most optimal parenting style to use in Western culture, children whose parents use the authoritative style are generally happy, capable, and successful. Happiness is the foremost thing. But I think in India we use this, the authoritarian parenting, low in support and high in demandingness. These parents expect and demand obedience because they are in charge and do not provide explanation for the orders. Yo guys, namaskaram. So back with another video. One of my subscribers had shared this with me. I think my reaction series are picking up some traction with the limited people who interact with it. But I thought this would be really fun. So I got this video by the title of Why Are Indian Parents Toxic? And we'll just watch it together. So let me do the standard stuff. Okay. Let's see, it would be interesting. I'll also try to come up with some psychological literature that I was reading on this. So let's see how this goes. But yeah.
This is what most people assume what growing up in an Indian household looks like. We all are brought up with the notion that life is much harder growing up in an Indian household, and that is just something that is part of our culture. But do Indians really feel this way? Did growing up in an Indian household affect your mental health?
According to me, I feel like Indian households are way more stricter than other households. Say judgmental relatives and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think authoritative parenting. So I'll just go in a little bit of depth here, but just let's continue watching.
The ones who are not brought up properly in their houses must be thinking there might be exceptions, but Indian families are not toxic unlike the European families which let go the children at the age of 14, 15 on their own.
Okay. I feel by letting go children at 14, 15, it just develops a really high level of self esteem because they understand the world from a very early lens and develop their own realities, which is very good for experiences. Because with every Indian, the problem is they just work in these so called corporate settings, jobs, and there's just no other life happening, no other skill development, no other social life development. So we miss out on a lot of things. So I'll disagree with that. Uncle?
Parents are not perfect because they are the first time parents as well. Growing up, I was a very chubby kid. So even as a child, I think I have been subjected to a lot of body shaming. When I was younger,
Yeah, this is a big problem. People have this weird expectations in their mind that what is it that perfection looks, and then they project those insecurities onto other people.
I was like very skinny. And they used to always make comments on that or like, like skin complexion and all that. So I feel like that really shapes sometimes how you look at yourself also.
Because a child is looking for love from his or her parents, and if they place these demands that if you do this, only then I'll give you this, that is very detrimental. So,
May not be, intentional, but that's just the way how it is, right? Like your relatives talking to you. I think every Indian girl, like she's gone through at some point. It started at home, by saying like, oh, you should like eat more, eat less, this complexion, that complexion, all this criteria. So I think every Indian girl will feel me when I say this.
Do you feel like you had to compromise?
I think Indian boys as well, because a lot of misery is just beneath closed doors. Not a lot of boys or men, for that matter, share all their pain and suffering. But yeah, I can relate to it. Even boys sometimes have weird sorts of issues happening all the time.
Compromise on your dreams or likes because of your family or parents?
My father was a little orthodox. What I really wanted to do, I wouldn't use the word didn't allow me because he was not one of those who would, but yes.
Your parents were lucky enough to receive. So if your parents did not have a chance to be highly educated, you would probably be pushed along certain paths which may not suit you the best.
My parents were very supportive. They're still very supportive. My brother is here. So yeah, they've never really stopped us from doing anything. Not really. Whatever my
Yeah, I think we're not, we just think that being this parent is a very, I don't know, natural thing that should happen without even understanding the responsibility for it. And a lot of these people are unfortunately raised by very orthodox people who are just coming out from the agriculture to the modern whole democratic thing. So a lot of changes are happening. And I feel a lot of our grandparents, quote unquote, were not very well educated. They were just trying to figure out survival. So that's there.
dreams were not too big. So whatever I had envisaged in my studies and what I needed to do, it was quite comfortable. I mean, no.
Yeah, I think probably killing dreams is also that pattern that has just been carried forward till this day and age.
Nobody came in the way of it.
I've always wanted to go and study in Delhi, but my parents are a bit overprotective, so they did not let me do that. So I think that's one small. I wouldn't say it's a small thing, but that's something that I didn't get to do because of my parents' confidence.
Let's roll the clock back.
And probably, I think a lot of apprehensions also come when you see certain types of news, certain types of events happening. Parents in general become very overprotective for the girls and things like that. But yeah, this is interesting. Let's see.
To 1940s. India had just gotten independence after years of oppression. The economic condition of the country, put it mildly, wasn't really the best. This is the world that our parents were born into. There were no clear job opportunity. It is no doubt that such an environment would have led to a more stricter parenting system.
To do with economical issues, the monetary issues, the families used to be big and income source was limited. So that had restricted many of them to not pursue their dreams.
And I think fortunately, internet is also a blessing that you now have like so many opportunities to learn. So don't just waste it. Education is the single most greatest tool that can just help you become a well-rounded individual. So that's there, and not compromise on your dream.
Compromise on it, get into a job at an early age to support the extended family.
I think
And this trend of having multitudes of brothers, sisters, 14, 15, I don't know. That's a very big problem because we were just ruled by our animalistic instincts and the need to survive. There's also that thinking that the more hands we have, the better it is for the family. And letting go of the fact that how will you bring that child up for those 20 years? Bringing a child into this world is a 20-25 year project, right?
the generation before us, the kind of economy that they were living in, it was hard economy. It wasn't as open as it is now. It wasn't as developed as it is now. So for them, getting a job, earning a stable income was the best possible scenario for them. They didn't think.
And a lot of people are forced into marriages as well due to stability. And you see that script right now being pushed forward. So, actually, there's a very interesting theory that's coming to my mind. It's on parenting. Let's just talk about it. I think if your parents are wanting to be, since I come more from a psychological perspective, this can be really cool. But, like, there's this person Baumrind's parenting style, and he talks about these four types of parenting: authoritative, authoritarian, permissive, and uninvolved. So we'll just go in a little bit of depth. So he says that in general, children tend to develop greater competence and self confidence when parents have high but reasonable and consistent expectations for children's behaviors, communicate well with them, this is important, are warm and responsive, and use reasoning rather than coercion to guide children's behavior. What this basically means, not using their authority in a weird way, but having genuine dialogue, having that space to have a mutual back and forth. This kind of parenting style has been described as authoritative parenting. Parents who use this style are supportive and show interest in kids' activities but are not overbearing and allow children to make constructive mistakes. So, not punishing your children for making mistakes, but probably just being with them, seeing that, okay, whatever you do, I'll just take care of the downside. So, this single line can help a lot of parents or a lot of children develop a healthy self-esteem and a good bond with their parents. This tender teacher approach, deemed the most optimal parenting style to use in Western culture, children whose parents use the authoritative style are generally happy, capable, and successful. Happiness is the foremost thing. But I think in India we use this, the authoritarian parenting, low in support and high in demandingness. These parents expect and demand obedience because they are in charge and do not provide explanation for the orders. Like, patterns like we have said so, so it would happen. Parents also provide ordered and structured environments with clearly stated rules. You see that a lot of these people are very low in happiness, social competence, self esteem because children become these people pleasers of sorts to just get that validation from their parents. So many would consider this as the parenting style used by Harry Potter's harsh aunt and uncle and Cinderella's vindictive stepmother. So I think Harry Potter is a very good example. Children reared in environments, so you see this, right? And then permissive parenting, high in support, low in demandingness, are likely using the permissive, also called indulgent. This is also not, I think, very optimal because their children in general then become those sort of entitled people, which is real bad. The children tend to lack proven happiness and self-regulation and are more likely to have problems with authority. Parents using this approach are lenient, do not expect the children to adhere to boundaries and avoid the fear of conflict. Sometimes it also happens with single parenting that let's say there's a very toxic boy and a single mother. I've seen a lot of cases like these because females in general have this attitude of avoiding conflict. They sometimes just don't also step in when it's needed to develop healthy self-esteem. And what happens with children in such cases is that in the long term they are not very happy, they are not very good with their self-esteem, and they fear taking challenges. So you see how these patterns are very important and how the right style of parenting is very important. And then uninformed parenting, basically whatever you want to do, don't want to do, it doesn't matter. So that kind of attitude, children reared by parents who are low in both support and demandingness tend to rank lowest across all life domains, lack self control, have low self esteem, and are less competent than their peers, using the uninvolved or sometimes referred to indifferent, like we just don't care, approach are neglectful or rejecting of their children and do not provide the most, if any, necessary parenting responsibilities. So you see, like probably a healthy authoritative parenting that you're seen as this authority, but that kind diplomat kind of authority, I think. A good archetype to explain this for the outside world would be as to how people on the outside see officers, let's say army officers and things like that in general, right? That they are good with their authority and they just do what they need to do. A good example would be, I think, Sam Bahadur ji from the outset, like where what is needed, he just does that. And then if we kind of go in a little bit of depth, so you see, like predict how parenting is important. We think that parenting is just one thing we have to do because of societal norms or because of our own inability to, let's say, sometimes control our own lust. But if you're bringing a life into this planet, it's very important. We are very responsible with how certain things ought to be. Now, I do understand that a lot of uneducated people just do that on the spur of moment. But if you're an educated person and watching this video, probably please just understand that the life you're bringing into this planet would have a lot of major consequences. So probably, yeah, I think we can just go back to this video. But I just wanted to share this so that you can just get the context that what is it that our Indian parents, which is an authoritarian parenting, the rigid ruler, are coming from. Anyhow, back to the video.
Think about dreams, aspirations, what I can do. I think very few people did that. Most people were very, very happy if they got a stable job. And I think when it came to their children, even though their children were brought up, say middle class or upper middle class, they still expected their children to get stable jobs, earn stable income, and not try anything new. The fear of, the child not being able to support them.
Yeah, the fear of failure because that's directly linked to your survival. So you understand that where is that fear coming from, and then like a lot of other things because how we raise our children. Let's say we just give our own insecurities. That's something that we should just also introspect. That are my insecurities or are my dreams are being projected through this child? Because then that's also becomes toxic in one way or another.
Themselves or their parents. So I think that fear has led them to make sure that their children choose professions that enable them to earn well.
The world that we live in currently is very different to the world that our parents lived in. The economy is brimming with opportunities. Culturally, things are more progressive, and the youth in particular are open to more ideas.
The last generation who are going to be so innocent, bro. They're not that bad. I don't know what media is trying to portray. Okay, few person all right, but it's just they also it's their first frustration.
Yeah, but I think a lot of behind closed rooms, those sorts of things also exist. That a lot of bullying has happened and a lot of other toxic things. So
They don't understand what is going on because for them also, it's sudden change, the technology, it's so much change for them itself. And they have also been brought up like that. So I feel like even we need to understand that also where they are coming from. I think that Indian parents are changing, especially millennials. I feel that they have changed a lot. For example, 40% more fathers are spending time with.
yeah, I think spending time as a dad is also very important because it's just not the responsibility of one parent for a healthy development of the child. Probably, I think one more theory comes in, but I'm not going to depth there because We can just talk about all these, I think, probably in a upcoming video.
Their children, and they are spending 50% more time than the previous generation did. Also, with respect to having a supporting household, the millennial couples are sharing the household tasks, and they're trying to find a balance between raising the child and having a relationship with a partner and a family, right, as compared to the previous generation.
It goes without saying, Miss.
I think healthy balance, but of course, you need to be perfect or just experiment a lot with that balance, because else, I've also seen a lot of people, if they are unable to strike that balance, it's just leading to corporate cheating and things like that.
Misunderstandings and miscommunications is the leading cause behind why a lot of relationships turn sour. And relational gap is not just a buzzword that's been thrown around simply. It has real effects on the relationship between Indian parents and their children. Parents are not able to comprehend that the world their kids live in is totally different from theirs, which ultimately leads to confrontation and a lot of trauma for everyone involved.
You know,
And one more thing is, we say that a lot of generation gap exists is partly because people fail to upgrade themselves as the times demand, as the need for the times exists. People think that once we have reached a certain job, a certain level, there's not much to learn in life. We have just seen everything. That's a wrong approach. Please keep breaking yourself to the last moment of your life, till whatever capacity you can, so that you're always just having this, exuding this youthful energy from you.
Indian parents tend to be far more protective and strict about their child.
And we pick up cultural scripts that is being handed down from way, way, way back. So you see that every household has somewhat a similar story, the same toxic parenting, the same scars and traumas. So across all third world countries in general who share the same continent earlier, right? The same Indians over. So we share the same script, but probably I think now it's high time we just become more responsible.
And the way their child grows up, especially. There are few things that they can learn towards parenting. Like they should also understand how to communicate with a child, because we are also teenagers, first time facing our hormones, first time facing things in life. So if you take it a little lighter on the kid, it's better. They also come from this mentality because their parents never taught them all this. But I always feel like Indian households, especially, they should have this mentality. There's nothing wrong if they don't know about parenting, but they can always try to take the first step to learn about it. I feel
Yeah, I think that attitude of not learning exists a lot in millennials, and I don't know, whatever we call that, boomer uncles and whatnot.
like that is missing. Like they don't accept that. Okay, oh, we can also be wrong sometimes. So that is not
Yeah, that attitude, I'm always right, that's weird. That needs to be challenged head on.
there. So and I feel they are very clueless about like yeah, they're very clueless. I feel like they're the last generation of parents who are innocent also. Yeah. So like they don't understand a lot of things. But again, it's their own trauma also they carry.
Is Indian parenting as bad as they say, though? It's not news that growing up in an Indian household can be harsh. But is it really that bad? Media and its various outlets have not done Indian parents much of a favor by demonizing them. But the real question is, are the stereotypes valid?
I don't think you can call it a stereotype, because I feel like most Indian parents are the way that they show it to be, but it might be a little exaggerated.
Most of the media houses are all either funded by the foreign
I don't know, I feel Uncle G is kind of going by a script, weird script.
multimedia companies or the multinational companies, either European standards or US standards, and they try to set that kind of image which today has no value there itself. So they try to set those kind of image and culture.
I don't know. Have we been there? What's the contextual data? This feels, again, I don't know, that subtle attitude that I know it just because I've read certain things. I don't know the context of it, but that's the general vibe I'm getting from this person at least.
Through the media on Indian parents and try to demonize them, saying that Indian parents are this way and that way.
It's like a reality check. I wouldn't say that it's completely true again, but there is a certain extent. And the way that's portrayed in media, I think to an extent is true. Even though the times are changing now, I feel like you cannot say that there is no truth to it. But yeah, definitely it can be exaggerated.
India has got its own cultural values and its own ethos, which is very
Yeah, the true cultural ethos which lies in our scripture, not the ones, the Victorian culture which we have picked up and all the invasions that have happened, which we call as our culture. That's not true culture of India.
strong. Today, is India is growing, or despite the huge population, it's because of its purely cultural and family values which Indians follow.
And maybe this generation considers our generation parents to be very strict parents and sort of going by the rule book. And we had what I would call it is consequential parenting, where we would try to teach the children that if you don't do a certain thing, there are consequences. Whereas these days, parents are very fearful of punishing their children or showing them, that there is a consequence.
No, you cannot say
Hmm. I think that consequential parenting is probably what we talked about in this video earlier, right? The authoritative parenting, not fearing conflict, also not over punishing, traumatizing the child. Because sometimes what happens, I've seen that, let's say, whatever injustices have been done on a specific person, when he or she becomes a parent, he goes on the other extreme end, which is also bad. It also ruins child in a very different way. So that's
Stereotype it. You cannot generalize it. Exceptions are there everywhere across the world.
yeah, but exceptions don't become the rule. That's also a fact.
But overall, if you see, Indian family values are most, sort of looked upon by the globe.
We still believed in spare the rod, spoil the child. Whether it
Spare the rod, spoil the child.
was right or wrong, I don't know. It worked for our parents, it worked for us.
I think we, at least in our mind, we are fairly liberal with our kids. I'm sure my kids will tell you otherwise, but we try our
Yeah, I think probably just having an open attitude. You see, a certain sort of youthfulness is exuded from certain people, so that's there.
best to be as supportive as we can.
As a child, it's not easy, but then you have to understand at some point, that they are also coming from some place. And it's difficult to, like, when you have this mindset already, it's difficult to, overcome that.
Plus, we are kids, we don't have much to do, but they are handling job,
Yeah.
family stress. We don't know what stress they are going through.
Yeah, they also go through a lot.
Having said that, I think we are perennial warriors. Indian parents are perennial warriors. They'll always worry about their children. Even when they grow up, they are also old, they'll continue worrying about them.
I think it's more like everyone, and it's also a cultural thing. Probably, I think just reading more on certain attachment things, what's the correct form of attachment, can help, and just trying implementing that.
It's no joke that growing up in an Indian household can be hard. But one thing we all need to accept is that it was equally hard for our parents too. After all, no one taught them how to raise us. This
Yeah, but they can always learn. Of course, I'm not blaming them, but this attitude of fixing your biases, breaking your own biases, educating yourself should also exist. That is very rare, I feel.
doesn't take away from the trauma and toxicity that some people had to go through growing up. But at the same time, sometimes all it takes is an empathetic ear to change everything, regardless of who lends it forward.
Yeah, probably. I think that's a good video. So I think that was a pretty interesting video. So yeah, that was my reaction. You let me know what you feel about this video. And I'll catch you in the next one. Do write in the comment section what limitations you have broken. And I'll see you soon. So this is Debu Ki Dastak from Debu Ki Dastak. Cheers. Bye.